Hello, cousins, and welcome to another Shattersong LARP Diaries episode. Today we're going to be switching back to Menhirs Fate after a little bit of Empire commentary. A few more things have changed. I think there's some new, not only character builders, but also apothecary and weave builders, with weave being the mage equivalent in Menhirs Fate, or I guess the magic rituals. Definitely going to be covering them very soon. But I just want to round off the gods, as they seem to be a major part of the setting. And I've also done the first 4 of 12, so if I didn't complete it, I would be some kind of hack. So, let's jump straight into it. God number 5, the Reaper. No points for guessing what this one is about. The Reaper, the god of death and mercy, is an inevitable presence in Elandra that touches all lives in time. They are neither cruel nor wish for deaths, as the Reaper does not seek to hasten or delay the end, only to ensure that all is as it must be when it comes. They are the quiet hand that guides souls to their next destination, ensuring all things come to their rightful conclusion. The Reaper, as a concept, may seem intimidating to some, but those who have encountered them understand that they have a patience and a gentleness that comforts those they come to collect. It's represented by the symbols of the hourglass and, of course, the skull. So there are 3 tenets of the Reaper, the first being that all things end, the second being grief is natural, but life must continue, and third, bring mercy where it is needed. The aspects of the Reaper include the figure, the omen, and the pupil. So the figure, be it a shadowy shape in the corner of the room as you say goodbye to the passing of a friend, or a familiar face looking over you as life begins to leave you, or even a hooded, robed skeleton walking through a battlefield, touching each fallen adventurer. Usually silent and watchful, its eyes seem to pierce the very fabric of your being, and those that meet its gaze feel at ease. Some that have felt or seen this figure say that within a moment all the pain seemed to have stopped and they felt at peace. The omen is a figure that often appears before what may become a sight of great death. This figure is hard to pin down throughout history, but through a mix of story and record, people, with the occasional message from the god itself, have seen that the Reaper has appeared in this aspect before times of great tragedy, bound not to interfere, but only to witness. And finally, the pupil. The Reaper, in its whole form, has no comprehension of life, only that it must end at some point. This pupil is a rare form. It is the Reaper's fascination in the mortal realm, and this aspect is always questioning, usually on how people feel about loss or the end of something, and why it makes them feel that way. If satisfied with the teachings, the Reaper in this form has been known to give the would-be teacher a gift. Some have mentioned a warning of their own end, so they can avoid it just the once. Okay, so God of Death, pretty standard, cycles and endings. I think there's going to be a bit of overlap between the omen and the figure, because I can imagine the figure as an NPC on a battlefield, right? Touching players and maybe as a local effect being able to, stave off the horrible role-playing effect of bleeding out or something. Or if you look at something like Rivers Run Red in Empire, maybe the battlefields are going to have instead of the... Oh gosh, I should remember, because I did an episode on it. How long does it take to bleed out? I think it's 3 minutes. I know it's 3 minutes at Empire, and I think it's 3 minutes here, but do not quote me. Again, ill-informed, opinionated, and often wrong. But imagine if the bleed out counter is 30 seconds and the role-playing effect is you are in agony, then perhaps the figure might show up. Although I can imagine the dramatic effect of going on a skirmish, you go through the gate, and the omen has just stood there, indicating that everybody is about to fucking die. That would be pretty cool. And then obviously the pupil is going to be some NPC downtime character, and You might get a role-playing effect where you get to stave off death once. That's pretty cool. Great for maybe heroic characters or some really good roleplay. Again, we're seeing this theme in Menhirs Fate Rules that good roleplay is going to drive a lot of the mechanics. But, 3 stars, it's got a death. What did we expect? Next up, the Warrior. And again, you can absolutely guess what this is about. The Warrior. The Warrior is the god of war, strategy, and the trials of conflict. Their domain extends to all who face struggle, whether on the battlefield, in matters of the mind, or in tests of faith. The Warrior embodies the courage to stand, the wisdom to endure, and the strength to overcome. Their presence is felt in the clash of armies where leaders must act with strategy and conviction, in the heat of debate where words strike as fiercely as steel, and in the physical contests that push the limits of body and spirit. The weapon is its key symbol, and this is actually quite interesting. So the Warrior may be referenced by any weapon, and this may be different across nations. It can also be called the helm or the banner. So I'm imagining almost like an Anglo-Saxon bannerman, that kind of outline being very thematic and, holding an axe, a sword, a scimitar, a mace, a hammer, whatever. Tenets of the Warrior. Fear is natural, but never let it rule you. Die on your feet, not on your knees. And be gracious in defeat. So pretty cool set of tenets. And 3 aspects of the Barbarian, the Competitor, and the Campaigner. So the Barbarian is the most common aspect of the Warrior. This personification is that of the Warrior's love for war and battle. The Barbarian can take many forms, from a leather-clad pit fighter, a knight in shining armour, or even a robed priest. One thing is common: it tries to inspire those around them to push and fight, and always choose the sword over the pen, and often, if ignored, will turn its falsity on those it was trying to inspire, in which the Reaper sits and waits. The Competitor. The Competitor exists for challenge. While it favours physical tests that gets the blood pumping, it appreciates the skill of debate and will not denigrate any who seek to create sport and challenge however they want to push themselves. The Competitor cares not for those who win with ease, for they relish in watching the challenge, the fight and strategy of even contests, or those of the underdog story. Some have seen this aspect, but boons that make it harder for those that win too easily. And these are to see if they are up to the task of the challenge, and those that put in all their heart and lose will be exalted to the highest of heights. I do wonder if this could apply to gambling. I know we've got maybe the jester for like hospitality and bars and gambling dens, but the Competitor could be an interesting aspect of the Warrior to take as a gambler. And with the this is a meme, by the way, but 99% of gamblers give up before their big win. The idea is just, keep pushing and keep losing, but perhaps the Competitor could be an aspect of that. Finally, we have the Campaigner. So this is a grizzled, battle-worn aspect of the Warrior, embodying the wisdom and resilience of a soldier who has survived countless battlefields. They have no illusions about war. They know it is brutal, exhausting, and rarely fair. Yet they persist, teaching others how to endure, when to fight, and more importantly, when not to. They are not impressed by bravado or reckless courage, and they do not seek for glory on the field, for they understand that sometimes managing to survive is the only victory to be had. Again, 3 stars. God of War. It's a bit like Athena to include strategy in there. I like the Competitor to have maybe sportsmen on the field. So if you've got a foot the ball, you've got teams, right, of people actually playing maybe casual sport inside Menhirs Fate, and having the Competitor as a patron god. I think that could be pretty cool. Especially if, this is a big if, but if there was some kind of game made up in Menhirs Fate, right? If you've ever played Fallout New Vegas, you've got Caravan. Nobody knows how the fuck to play it, but but it was in there. And maybe something involving LARP weapons, like who can get the most spins out of the sword. You chuck it in the air, you do the cool little flip. Whoever can spin their dagger the most revolutions and then catch it again smoothly. That could be a competition, or I think we've seen like head tossing and stuff like that as other feats of strength at Empire. So it'd be cool to see a Menhirs Fate branded sport, but that is very much a minority ask, I imagine. But overall, pretty standard. It's a warrior god. Next up, the Guardian. The Guardian is the god of protection and love, standing as a shield for those in need. Their domain extends to all who dedicate themselves to safeguarding others, whether through strength, wisdom, or unwavering faith. Warriors who hold the line to defend their companions, elders who take in orphan children, and priests who protect the hearts and spirits of their people, all find solace in the Guardian's essence. Though protection has always been their purpose, love is a recent addition to their sphere of influence. It was the faith of the people of Alandra that wove it to the Guardian's being, and now, love and protection are inseparable. To guard against something is to cherish it, and to cherish something is to stand against all that threatens it. Okay, so I think, just to comment here quickly, love is a recent addition to their sphere of influence. So perhaps we're going to see some theological changes going through the game, and maybe understanding different aspects of different gods, very much like virtue ebbs and flows and doctrine changes at Empire. We might see the same here. I'm not sure how I feel about that, if that would be the case. I think I kind of hate myself for constantly leaning on Empire, but I think it's the only comparable thing here. But the doctrine of faith at Empire is fantastic, and the way itself is very interesting, and I love engaging with it. However, the Synod itself, whilst it has the potential to be some of the most interesting game on the field, having played it myself, it's deeply political and bureaucratic, and I think that's maybe the whole point. That's the joke, that's the satire, right? Is that this isn't about faith, it's about control and power, which is maybe accurate for a PvP political LARP. But here in Menhirs Fate, that's not the case. So is there going to be a need for doctrine to change? Is there going to be theological discussions about what each god means? These definitions, they're pretty solid. They're not very vague. I think there's some overlap between the gods, and that could lead to some friction, but I don't believe it could. I really don't believe it could lead to conflict, because if I'm standing in a battle line in the name of the Guardian, a follower of the warrior would see me as standing on my feet and not dying on my knees. So from their point of view, I'm worshipping their god as well. So maybe we won't see as much political angst as we do in other systems, but it would be. I think that would be a good thing, just to leave that out, keep the gods nice and simple, and then have cults that develop their own personality in play, and we'll see what horrible things happen there, because you'll get the corrupted high priest of the Guardian that is slowly bending the followers of the Guardian to their evil, malicious needs? Evil, malicious ways. Yeah, let's call it evil, malicious ways. They'll be pushing players to do that, and then it'll be up to the Adventurers Guild or other priests to sort of hold an inquisition and burn the heretic. But we'll have to see. I'm thinking way further ahead of E1 at this point, but it would be nice to have a more simplified faith game, I think. Alright, next up. The actual symbols of the Guardian are the gate, the shield, and the heart. The tenets are defend with words as much as action, love without chains, know when to let go. Okay, know when to let go. This might be the god of breakups. Alright. I'm not sure if there's any particularly romantic nations within the setting. Maybe Avaro for those kind of adventuring parties who get very close and inevitably two heroes fall in love, that kind of thing. But I'm not sure how much that's going to kick in. And then breakups as well. A god of breakups. Maybe Agony Aunts, you know? You go to the temple just to go and slag off your ex. That could be that could be an interesting little player encounter. I'm mixed. I'm mixed so far. Alright, let's see. Aspects of the Guardian. The Bulwark, the Threadkeeper, and the Sentinel. First of all, the Bulwark is the hero in a time of need. The Bulwark often appears as a travelling knight and has inspired many to help others. Frequently saving people from small-scale events, many accounts tell of being saved from bandits on the road by a knight who asks for no reward, being given a shield that seems to miraculously keep you alive in the next fight, or being given directions to avoid some disaster. Ooh, okay. So I can see this coming into competition with the Reaper, keeping you alive and avoiding disasters that the Reaper might want you to step into. That'd be cool. Second aspect is the Threadkeeper. The Threadkeeper represents love that endures beyond distance or time. It is the steady, unwavering light of love that doesn't fade. Those who hold steadfast to their bonds, whether separated by war, hardship, or the veil between worlds, call upon this aspect. Love in its truest form does not break. It only grows stronger. And finally, the Sentinel. The ever-watchful protector. The Sentinel stands guard so that others may rest easy. This aspect represents vigilance, patience. Oh, that virtue vigilance. Hey. This aspect represents vigilance, patience, and the quiet strength of those who remain alert to danger. They are the night watchman who never sleeps, the scout who ensures safe passage, and the guardian who sees the threat before it arrives. The guardian is 4 stars. 3 stars for a god of kind of protection, which does feel like a massive overlap with the warrior, but shifting it towards love and bonds, I think is pretty cool. And if you're going for like a family vibe, a very close-knit group, none of this is about romantic love. This could be a family love, for your siblings, your children, for example. So I think it could show up in those literal families, those OC families who show up to LARPs. I think this would be pretty cool. Having a little pendant with a heart or a shield on it, and giving that to your betrothed, or giving that to people you care about, promising to love them and look after them no matter what happens. I think that could be pretty cool. And if we do get a tent with an Agony Aunt in to slag off your ex, outstanding. Outstanding to whoever wants to run with that roleplay. Alright, final god for this episode, the Scholar. All the wizards get very excited all of a sudden. So, the pursuit of knowledge is a lifelong journey, and the Scholar walks alongside all who seek to understand the world. From a child awkwardly tracing their first letters to the quiet contemplation of a much-learned sage, the Scholar is present in every lesson, every discovery, and every curiosity sparked. Their domain holds the wisdom of ages, but answers given freely teach very little, and those who seek the Scholar's guidance will oft find their questions met with riddles, challenges, and a means to uncover the truth for themselves. A god who delights in the pursuit of understanding, the Scholar observes the world with endless fascination, ever eager to witness how knowledge shapes the lives of those who chase it. Their symbols include the book, the eye, and the key. Do not use religious eye symbols, is the OC message here. This should simply be an open eye. I guess you got like the Egyptian Ankh, but I'm not sure of any religious eyeballs and symbols. This is the silence of Chris googling something. Let's find out what religion this is. Ah, the Eye of Providence. Christian Holy Trinity in the late Renaissance European iconography. Oh, yeah, it's on top of the pyramid on the American dollars. Illuminati kind of vibes. Okay, cool. So don't use that, but any eyeball that's open, go for it. Even better yet, get one of a 3D printed or like a painted marble or something and have a literal eyeball. That'd be pretty cool. Right, tenets. Every day a lesson, every person a teacher. Do not hoard knowledge. Accept knowledge where it finds you. It's pretty cool. Aspects of the scholar. The sage, the student, and the savant. The sage is an aspect of the scholar focused on collecting and preserving knowledge. This aspect places huge importance in accumulating information, whether through ancient scrolls, forgotten manuscripts, or the oral histories passed down through generations. Especially now, since the fading has caused so much information to be lost. I have no idea what the fading is. That's new to me. The sage is fixated on recovering the knowledge of the past and preserving it in their own library, so it cannot be forgotten by mortals again. The student embodies the ceaseless quest for knowledge, ever hungry for answers. This aspect represents those who ask questions, push boundaries, and seek understanding from those around them. The student is not just a passive learner, but actively challenges teachers and mentors, offering new perspectives and encouraging growth in return. A rare few have earned the privilege of becoming the student's teacher. And the student here is capitalized, so literally teaching the student God. And those who have are often rewarded not only with the satisfaction of imparting knowledge, but with a boon of insight or an answer to their perplexing questions. So this is how we get the deep lore out. There's going to be some professional student hunter player. They're going to find that NPC and they're going to ask, what's next? And watch their NPC panic. Finally, we have the savant. The savant represents the pinnacle of study and expertise, often embodying that moment when mastery transforms into confidence or even arrogance. This aspect seeks out those striving to surpass their limits, challenging them to reach new heights. The savant relishes in the ability to outwit others, but takes the most joy in being outsmarted, for it is in defeat that the savant finds new lessons to learn and paths to explore. Their unquenchable thirst for self-improvement drives them to seek out the best minds and test their knowledge against them, knowing that each loss brings them closer to true wisdom. Overall 3 stars. This again, it's the knowledge god. It's going to be relevant for all the priests. Okay, weavers, maybe some priests if they're looking for like religious insight. Again, see above about the comments on the theology and how that progresses in game. Clearly, again, there's going to be some NPC dumps in here that Menhirs Fate doing a good job of leaving plot hooks open in their lore. I see a little bit of an overlap between the savant and the student. Quest for knowledge, hungry for answers, versus surpass your limits, challenging yourself to reach new heights and outwitting others. It's, I guess the student's just less of a dick than the savant, but otherwise I think they're both doing the same thing. They're trying to learn things, and the savant is trying to prove it, probably in an argument, but is happy when they're bested because they learn something, which is what the student would want. So, my bias here is clear, and it is bias because I don't like magey characters in settings. It's nothing personal. It just doesn't speak to me as a role player. I'm very much all for solo charging a dragon, odds of 100 to 1, and then trying to fight your way through those odds. And when you're a mage yeeting fireballs everywhere, it's easy mode, right? Because you have a gun, and the barbarian has a stick. So there's my opinion. Take it or leave it. But overall, for the Reaper, Warrior, Guardian, and Scholar, I think these are pretty standard. They're exactly what you'd expect from just a brief reading of the overview. I think the Guardian could be interested in like almost a couple of kind of shitposty playthroughs. So being like a ragging on your ex, Agony Aunt, relationship counselling, that kind of thing. But I can see that only affecting a small number of players because messing around with OC relationships, I don't think is a good idea. And then with your purely IC relationships, trying to avoid that bleed, a lot of people struggle with. And only if then, you've then got to roleplay a breakup, and then you've got to go and roleplay talking to someone to help you fix it. So we'll see. I think again, just to go at this Agony Aunt idea, because apparently I'm fixating on it. If someone was to maybe start publishing and writing a newspaper, then people were writing questions in, we could call this the Guardian column. Very on the very on the nose, but yeah, make a paper called the Guardian, and it's just loads of love advice. I think that would be pretty cool to see. Right, there you have it. Gods 5 through 8. We've got 4 more to cover in another episode as we move through the Menhirs Fate Gods. But don't worry, we're going to be getting back to more interview episodes because I do prefer those because they're much more fun. But at the same time, I think it's really important to have a look at these mechanics purely from a selfish point of view, right? I don't care if you guys like listening to this. I just need to read these rules so I know what the hell is going on when I hit the field. But I feel like, giving my feedback and general understanding can hopefully inform people in a educational way. Perhaps the scholar really is driving me. But with that said, this brings us to the end of the episode. I do hope you enjoy. Oh, I can't speak English today. I hope you enjoy your evening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. And I hope you enjoy the wait to Menhirs Fate E1. Until then, ta-ta.